Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. This is Tim Diacono, joined with me by JP Azzopardi. How are you, Jay?
I'm good, Tim. How are you?
Pretty good. So let's get into it. Today's stories. The Nationalist Party awaits the President's decision on Adrian Delia's future as leader of the opposition. Malta's airport will reopen to 28 safe countries considered safe this Wednesday. Hugo Chetcuti's murder, 2 years on. Lawyers are awaiting a date for the trial. Malta has opened its first STUNT studio, and the Maltese man has said he's unable to find a job because of his face tattoo. So let's start with the first one. The big story on everyone's lips, or especially particularly of everyone who's interested in politics, the state of the Nationalist Party. So a few days ago, on Friday, the majority of the PNMPs informed President George Vella that they no longer have trust in Adrian Delia as leader of the opposition, and now they're awaiting the president to make his decision. He's expected to take his decision imminently, so he's been deliberating for the whole weekend, and he's actually quite criticized about this as well. People are telling him, it's quite an obvious choice, but I think he did well to wait, because it's a very significant decision, not only in terms of the Nationalist Party but also in terms of our democracy. So basically, the choices that he has are whether to remove Adrian Delia as opposition leader and appoint Therese Committee-Nikakia, whether to remove him but appoint no one, which would basically probably force the PN into a leadership election, or whether to do nothing, or whether to force the party to split into two different parties. So again, significant implications no matter what he decides. So follow lovinmalta.com for any updates, which we will be keeping track of on this latest development.
Absolutely, it's an unprecedented time in Maltese politics, and I think it's important that he takes
recent Maltese politics,
and it's important he takes his time with this decision. So we'll wait on that. Moving on to our next story. Some good news, actually. Malta's airport is to open up to 28 safe countries this Wednesday, July 15th. Previously, it had been announced that on July 15th, Malta would open up to the rest of the world. But I think we're moving now on EU protocol and suggestions, and as it stands now, we're opening up to 28 other countries, which includes, the UK, out of some places, Australia as well. So to all, Australia viewers, you can now fly to Malta. And also includes countries that Malta doesn't have direct flights to, like Japan, Thailand, Andorra as well. So it's an exciting time,
Rwanda as well.
Rwanda and all these other places that Malta doesn't fly to directly, but it's a good sign that we're opening up in this kind of post COVID life, and it's based on EU protocols, as Malta previously said it would open up to the rest of the world, but as it stands, I think it's important that we open up safely and to these countries, and places like the UK and the United Arab Emirates are big destinations for Maltese people, Maltese expats. So it's important. It's good news for sure, especially considering Malta has currently 5 active cases of COVID-19 at the moment.
And I think it's also interesting to note that our airport has now been open for around 10 days now, and we haven't really witnessed that spike in cases that many people were scared was going to happen. I'm not saying it won't happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
No.
So I think it's only fair to open the airport up to more countries. Moving on, a story that many people might have forgotten about, but Hugo Chetcuti's murder was actually 2 years ago now, and 2 years on, his lawyers have informed Lovin Malta that they're still awaiting a date for the trial of the man charged with murdering him. So it was a date for the trial was meant to be announced in April, but it had to be postponed, obviously, because of the pandemic, and now they're awaiting a new date. So just a quick recap of what happened, because we definitely don't have any closure whatsoever in this shocking murder. So 2 years ago, Hugo Chetcuti was standing outside one of his new Parcheville establishments when this Serbian man, Bojan Cmelik, stabbed him in the stomach and ran away. Hugo Chetcuti later died of an infection in hospital. And this man, Bojan Cmelik, later turned out to be Bojan Mitic, a previous criminal in Serbia who had actually given the police the slip after he was involved in an armed robbery of a van. And he had come to Malta and then changed his name and ended up working at two, I think, of Hugo Chetcuti's establishments. And then he was fired a few months later. Then he stabbed Hugo. The motive is a complete mystery. He hasn't spoken a word to the police, which makes it even more suspicious, right?
Over 2 years, yeah. Over 2 years. But I think what we do know is, to a certain extent, that it was premeditated. There is evidence. There's camera footage of the night of him lurking around a couple of Hugo's establishments, his hotel, probably waiting for Hugo to make an appearance. So while the motive is still a mystery, and it's strange that he hasn't spoken at all in the past 2 years to police.
It's strange. It's telling.
It's telling in a sense, yes, of his motivation behind it. But we do know that it was a premeditated attack. So now, obviously, we're waiting for the jury trial, and hopefully more can be revealed in due time. It also shows the importance of trying to, hone in on the judicial system and put pressure on police and law enforcement to carry out their job and do their duty 2 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of these cases seem to, just be deprioritized as soon as more urgent cases come in, and I think Malta deserves answers as to why one of its most famous businessmen was killed the way he was.
Absolutely. Now moving on to perhaps a more light-hearted story, and some good news actually. Malta has now opened its first stunt studio. Renowned local stunt man Morgan Chetcuti, along with his 10-year-old son Myron Chetcuti, who is Malta's youngest stuntman apparently, have opened up their stunt studio in Halasha for aspiring stunt people to be equipped with the right tools and skills necessary to make it in the film industry. We obviously know Malta is a hotspot, an attractive location for the film industry. We've had massive shoots here, from Gladiator to Troy and Captain Phillips and whatnot. In fact, Morgan featured in Captain Phillips. So he's got a lot of history, he's got a lot of experience as a stunt man, and for him to open his stunt studio, it's pretty cool and give a good boost to the local film industry for anyone looking to make it in the industry, so that they can compete with foreign stuntmen and get a role in these big films that come to Malta when they eventually do come back to our shores. Obviously right now everything's a bit of a standstill, but it's great for people on the island to build up their skills, build up their repertoire, get some footage, get some good photos of them doing stunts, and to show to these films when they come here or when they go abroad. So it's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen any photos of the stunt studio.
Yes,
it's pretty cool.
They
have airbags. They have all this.
It seems very professional. So yeah, obviously, if you're interested in the movie world and want to take a step inside it, I think there's always a demand for stunt people.
Absolutely.
So yes, pretty great that it's opening up here in Malta as well. And moving on, a Maltese man called Stefan Zara has spoken out about how he has not been able to find a job, not because of his skills or lack thereof, but because of his face tattoo. Now, this man said that potential employers literally told him in his face that they would have hired him had it not been for the tattoos on his face. Now, he's calling this a form of blatant discrimination. What do you make of this? I mean, there was quite a lot of discussion about this in our comment section.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people showed support to Stefan, but a lot of people also were quite negative towards him. I mean, the thing is, we're talking about a job here as a stacker in a supermarket or as a dishwasher, in the back of a restaurant. So we're not talking about really customer-facing jobs or high-profile jobs. This is a job he really needs just to provide for his family, And he said he sent out tens of resumes to a bunch of employees, and they haven't, like you said, they haven't hired him because of the lack of skill, but because they've told him in his face that were it not for the tattoo, they would hire him. Now, it's important to address something that was brought up yesterday in the comment section of the article, which was the fact that Stefan has multiple tattoos, one of which includes a swastika sign. Lovin Malta had reached out to Stefan to clarify exactly what this means and whether this is true. And yes, it's true, but it was something, a tattoo he had made when he was very young, and he completely regrets it, and and says he didn't do it with any ill intent. He's not a Nazi. He wishes to cover up the tattoo, but obviously it's an expensive. It costs a lot of money, and he kind of doesn't have a job. But for anyone who has any doubts about his character, he has come out saying that he has no affiliation with the Nazi regime, and he did it purely out of just his ignorance in a sense, but he wasn't aware of it, and he didn't mean any ill intent by it. So that's an important distinction to make. Obviously, it's a sad situation where he's being discriminated because of his tattoo, which also on his face doesn't mean anything, and something as a simple dishwasher job he's unable to get and provide for his family.
I mean, anti-tattoo discrimination in Malta has definitely declined. So there used to be, over the years, people used to be extremely discriminated against because of any sorts of tattoos that they used to have. Nowadays, I mean, it's almost become rare not to have a tattoo. But the fact that it's on his face, where it's extremely visible, and also I would suspect that some people seem to link face tattoos to elements of crime, of prisoners. I think it instantly conjures up those sort of
negative connotations,
sort of images of a Cuban prison,
Exactly, yeah.
But yes, good to see this guy talking about it and raising the discussion
and addressing it for sure.
And that's it for today, right?
Comes the end of our Lovin Daily. It's on a Monday morning. We wish you a happy week ahead.
Yes, and a day full of loving.